Hi everyone, welcome to another maths video by Maths with Sarah. So we're going to start by looking at a few questions from an Edexcel paper from November 2018. This is the paper 2, so calculator is fine to use. These questions are on a special request from some of the girls at school who have been doing this paper for homework. And there's a few questions that they found particularly tricky, so that's why I've decided to record these videos this weekend. So we're going to be starting by looking at question 13. So we've got this question showing a circle with an equilateral triangle inside it. As with all of these videos, I would encourage you to pause the video now, have a read through the question, see what you can work out to start with by yourself, and then come back to the video. There will be a few points during this video when I'll encourage you again to pause the video and see whether or not you can work through the answer from there, because I do think that there's definitely parts where you will definitely be able to do it yourself once you've kind of got through the initial tricky bit. Okay, so let's get started with this question. We're going to start by looking at reading at exactly what the question is telling us to do, what the information that we've got, and then seeing how that we can link that to the diagram. So we've been told that it's a circle and an equilateral triangle. So I'm highlighting the fact that it's an equilateral triangle because obviously that tells us a number of things about this. Particularly the first point, which is that all three sides are the same length, and also that we know each of the angles. So we know this angle is 60 degrees, and that's the same for the other angles as well. We also know that the length, the side length of the equilateral triangle is equal to the diameter of the circle. And then we've got this final piece of information where the circumference of the circle is 44 centimetres, and that's going to come in pretty useful in a second. We've been asked to work out the area of the triangle, and then finally for the very last step, we've been asked to give it to 3 significant figures. Okay, so let's get started with this then. So the only real piece of information number-wise that we've been given at the moment is that the circle has a circumference of 44 centimetres. Now, hopefully you're trying to remember your circle facts. And one of the most important ones for this question is that the circumference of a circle is equal to pi times by the diameter. Okay, so that should be ringing some alarm bells for you now, because you should be realizing that you can work out, you can use the circumference, which we've been given of 44 centimeters. We've got pi, and if we rearrange this equation, we can use it to work out what the diameter is. So we can do the circumference, which is 44 centimeters divided by pi, and that's going to give us our diameter. Now, if you do that, you're going to end up with a value that's roughly equal to 14 centimeters. So just for now, I'm going to put it as 14 centimeters, but obviously use the actual value on your calculator rather than rounding it. The next thing we can work out from this is this diameter is obviously the distance all the way across. But to work out the area of a triangle, we actually need to work out the central height. We need to do the base times height. The equation for the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So we are going to have to work out what this height is here. So my next step for this would be actually to start figuring out what the radius is. I want to be cutting this triangle in half so that then I can work with just one side of the triangle and then go from there. So I'm actually going to rub out this 14 centimeters for now and come back to it in a minute. Hopefully you remember that the diameter is the distance all the way across, whereas the radius is half of that. So if we know that the diameter is the distance all the way across and the radius is half, we can just halve the diameter to work out the radius. So we can go from the diameter being 14 centimeters to the radius being 7 centimeters. Or if you want it a little bit more exact, we can say that that's equal to 22 over pi. Using this here, we've just halved the top, kept the bottom the same, so we've got 22 over pi. Okay, obviously we've been told already, we know that this is an equilateral triangle, so we know that if this whole diameter side is equal to 14 centimeters, that therefore means that this side of the triangle is equal to 14 centimeters, but also this side of the triangle here is equal to 14 centimeters. And if we, just for completeness, if we've turned this into a right-angled triangle by cutting it down the middle, and then we can work out, we've exactly bisected, we've exactly halved this top angle, so it's gone from being 60 degrees of an equilateral triangle to 30 degrees. Okay. So we've kind of got all the information we possibly can at the moment. So the next step of this is to work out what the height of this triangle is. Now, I reckon there are at least 3 or 4 different methods of working this out. I'm going to go with the easiest one, which is using Pythagoras, but obviously trigonometry would also work here as well. So using Pythagoras, I'm going to do, again, obviously use the values that you've got on your calculator, use the answer button to plug in the exact values rather than using these rounded values that I'm using, just because I don't want to write out the whole thing. So what we're going to do here is we use Pythagoras. So I'm using Pythagoras. I'm going to do a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Hopefully that's an equation that's embedded safely into your brain. You remember that one. So remember the c squared is the longest side, is the hypotenuse, and then a squared and b squared, it doesn't actually matter which way around we put these. For the sake of this one, we're having b squared is the unknown value. So in order to work out what b squared is, we're just going to slightly rearrange this equation. So we've got b squared is equal to c squared, take away a squared. And now if we start plugging in the values, we can do b squared is equal to 14 squared, or 14 point whatever it is. Subtract 7 squared, and that's going to give us our value for b squared. It's going to give us a value of 140 something. I'm going to go 4. And then if we square root that, we get our value of b of 12.129. Had that value written down, but I did not write down the value of b squared, so I apologise if this is slightly incorrect. Okay, so we've got this value of 12.129. At this point, I'm going to just do a very, very quick sort of sensibility check. So we've got a hypotenuse of 14 centimetres. We've got this this side length of 7 centimetres. So it does make complete sense that our height of this triangle is 12 centimetres. So I'm happy with that. So I've got a distance of 12.129 centimetres for this height here. So all that's left now is to find the area of the triangle. So if we're doing this, we want to go back to the full base length. So that would be 14. Obviously, again, remember to use the answer button on your calculator, the exact answer, rather than using the rounded version of 14. We're going to times that by the height, which we've got as 12.129. And then remember the equation for finding out the area of a triangle is the base times by the height divided by 2, or you can also times it by a half, whatever you find easiest. Again, obviously putting this into your calculator, because it's most definitely a calculator question, you're going to get the answer of 84.904 or something, sorry, 84.904. You might get something slightly different depending on where you've rounded. Again, I did use the answer button for the calculator, so hopefully it should be coming out something similar to this, but there is, if you look at the mark scheme, there is a range of values, so you can have anything between 84.5 and 85.5 as an acceptable answer. The last part of this question, just to check, if we read back through the question, we can just make very sure that we've done everything correctly. So the last part here is give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So if we do that, we've got 84.9. Remember, significant figures is not the same as decimal places. It means we need 3 numbers in total. And our units for this, everything so far, the only value we were given was in centimetres. So everything we worked out was in centimetres. So our units will be centimetres squared. And that is our final answer for this question. So again, this was taken from November 2018, paper 2, the higher paper, and it was question 13. Hopefully you found this video useful. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully you found it useful.